Here is an expanded, flowing rewrite of the story as a continuous narrative, with no headings, sections, or bullet points, just one immersive, dramatic tale told in the first-person voice of Clayton Bridwell, polished for maximum emotional punch and storytelling flow. I never imagined that inheriting my grandfather's old ranch would turn into the fight of my life. 8 months ago, when he passed, he left me 1,000 acres of the most beautiful rolling land in Cedar Valley, Texas, land that's been in the Bridwell family since 1962. The farmhouse still creaks the same familiar way it did when I was a boy running through the kitchen, and every morning I brew coffee while staring out at those same hills, the windmill turning slow and lazy in the distance like it has for 60 years. I'm 52, a semi-retired electrician living on Social Security and the occasional side job. My wife Sarah lost her battle with cancer last winter, and that loss still sits heavy on me. She always dreamed of starting a scholarship fund for local kids who couldn't afford college, but we never quite scraped together the money. Now the property taxes keep climbing because of all the fancy developments springing up around me, and the land itself is worth about $2.3 million if I ever decided to sell. But I don't. This place holds 4 generations of sweat, sacrifice, and memories. And right in the middle of it all sits Cedar Valley Estates, a luxury HOA community of 200 homes, averaging $800,000 each, built right on top of my land without a single legal right-of-way. It started one crisp morning at my grandfather's old cattle gate. A white BMW X7 skidded to a stop like the driver owned the dirt beneath her tires. Out stepped Constance Hartwell, HOA president, attorney, and, as I would soon learn, professional menace. Designer sunglasses, clipboard in a death grip, $300 heels sinking into ranch soil. She marched right up and shoved violation notices into my chest. "Tear down this gate," she demanded. "You're blocking our private road." Her road. The same road my grandfather carved out in 1959 with a borrowed bulldozer and sheer determination. The cedar fence posts still carry the scent of the day he set them. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded, climbed back into my truck, and drove away. Because I knew something she didn't. The next morning, the county surveyor was coming, and when everyone saw exactly where those million-dollar homes actually sat, Willowbrook Estates, Cedar Valley Estates, was about to discover who really owned the ground under their feet. Constance wasn't used to being ignored. She drove up again in that pristine BMW, heels clicking, voice clipped like every word was a court order. "Your little farm is blocking our residents' access to the Canyon Vista Country Club," she said, waving a manicured hand at the gate. I carried my grandfather's old leather notebook everywhere, a habit he taught me. Document everything. Tap the pencil 3 times before you write. Sarah used to tease me for being too polite, but some fights are worth having quietly. That evening I sat at the kitchen table talking to her photo like I do every morning. She'd have known exactly how to handle this. Me? I was confused, overwhelmed. My grandfather never mentioned easements or HOAs. As far as I knew, that road was as private as the house itself. Then the threats arrived. $5,000 in attorney fees. Remove the gate in 30 days, or face a $50,000 lawsuit. On Social Security, $50,000 might as well be $50 million. A process server showed up with papers full of intimidating legalese, unlawful obstruction, willful interference. My hand shook as I read them. That night, spread across the table, the documents felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. But my grandfather always said the courthouse holds all the answers if you know where to look. So I drove down there, paid $25 for a full property search, and spent the day in the basement amid musty papers and burnt coffee smell, copying everything. That's when I found it. The original 1962 deed spelled out private road and water rights in perpetuity. And more. A 25-year temporary access agreement signed in 1998 when the first development crept in. Temporary. It expired December 2023. No renewal. For 11 months, Constance and her 200 families had been trespassing on my land. I sat in my truck outside the courthouse for a long time, staring at the photocopies, my grandfather's fountain pen signature clear as day. The taste of victory was sharp, but it came mixed with the realization that this was bigger than I thought. I called the legal aid clinic for seniors. Maria Santos, the young volunteer attorney, got excited when I explained what I'd found. If that easement expired and was never renewed, every day they've used your road is trespassing. In Texas, you can collect damages. We started digging deeper. She asked if Constance had ever shown me a current agreement. She hadn't. Pure intimidation. Then came the fence cutting at 6 in the morning. Bolt cutters snapping through 60 years of wire mesh. Cattle wandering onto the highway. Sheriff's deputy. $800 in repairs. Vet bills. Humiliation as HOA residents filmed me herding cows in my own front yard. But they handed me evidence. I installed security cameras. Documented everything. Deputy Martinez showed me files. 6 similar complaints against this HOA in the past year. Harassment. Boundary disputes they lost. A pattern judges hate. Next they came for my well. A county inspector with a shutdown notice. 48 hours to prove my water rights or face $10,000 fine and permanent sealing. My stomach dropped. Without that spring, the ranch dies. But in the barn, among yellowed papers smelling of motor oil and leather, I found the 1964 well permit. And a business card. Jim Richardson, retired county engineer. 82 years old, memory sharp as a tack. Your grandfather's well taps the primary spring feeding the whole valley. Those HOA wells drilled in 2018 draw from the same flow. They're dependent on you. We documented it all. Texas water law, prior appropriation. First user wins. Then the bombshell. Back at the courthouse, the clerk couldn't find any current easement for my property. Instead, a 2017 document bearing my grandfather's signature. Except he died in 2015. Forged. Ballpoint pen on a man who used fountain pen since the 70s. Shaky handwriting on someone crippled by arthritis in his last years. Maria called it felony document fraud. The filer? Pinnacle Development Group, the bankrupt developer who built the community. And who was their legal counsel at the time? Constance Hartwell. She knew. She had always known. The pieces fell into place. I installed remote shut-off valves on the water lines crossing my property. Completely legal, hidden, controllable from my phone. Maria filed a quiet title action. We gathered witnesses. Jim Richardson, Deputy Martinez, the records clerk, even an investigative reporter from Channel 7 named Rebecca Torres, who'd been tracking rural fraud. Constance escalated. Tried bribing the water inspector, my cousin's husband, with cash and real estate favors. Caught on recording. Surveillance trucks. Nighttime trespassers at my well. Federal crimes piling up. We timed it perfectly. HOA board meeting on a Thursday at 7. At 7:30, mid-PowerPoint tirade about my harassment, I shut off the water from my phone. Chaos. Confusion. Sabotage! She screamed. Deputy Martinez stepped forward with federal agents. I walked to the front with my grandfather's old surveyor briefcase. Evidence projected on the screen. Real signature versus forgery. Medical records. Water dependence. The room exploded. Constance stammered, then crumbled. She resigned that night. Within weeks, a new board negotiated. $75,000 for 7 years of unauthorized use. Monthly easement fee. Insurance covered my costs. Federal investigation into the broader Pinnacle fraud scheme. Constance faces 3 to 5 years and disbarment. 6 months later, I stood in that same community center for the first Sarah Bridwell Memorial Scholarship Ceremony. 50,000 endowed scholarships for rural kids pursuing trades. 3 high school seniors got full rides: electrical work, welding, mechanical engineering. The room was packed with families celebrating opportunity instead of fighting over fences. I took off my wedding ring that morning and placed it on Sarah's grave. "Honey, we did it." The ranch feels like a legacy again. I started a monthly rural property rights workshop. Legal clinics. Helping others avoid what happened to us. The road now has proper signage. Water flows clean and fair. My phone still rings with news stories, elderly neighbors facing the same pressure. I reach for the notebook, check the surveying equipment, and tell Sarah's photo, "Looks like we're not done yet." Justice, it turns out, tastes exactly like cold spring water after a long, hot fight. And sometimes, the little guy wins with brains, patience, and a whole lot